So I've just posted a new video that I recorded from a conversation I had with a mentee discussing basically how and the process of title splitting. So I've recorded this so that I can share it with this group and hopefully help to share more knowledge around title splitting, the process of it, and the kind of the do's and don'ts, I guess. So hope you enjoy, and if there's any questions, please put it in the link and in the comments box.
Hi guys, I just thought I'd post this video. I've just had a mentoring session with one of my mentees on the title split project that we're working on together, and I wanted to basically share this kind of flow diagram, I guess, of some of the components of a title splitting project. So A, you get to learn about it, and B, you also see some of the full process that I teach on my mentoring program as well. On, again, like I said, with title splitting, there's a lot to consider. So hopefully by working for this, it will give you a bit more of a better insight if that's one of the considerations you're looking for. So in terms of title split, so as I called it here, I was talking to you this morning, so title splitting deal assessment. So some of the key considerations that we go through during the mentoring program. First, we start with the simple basic aspect of doing a title split here. Basically, you want to take a big block of a building, ideally already split into flats, but still on a freehold. And the idea, you want to create more value by breaking them down and creating individual units on paper, because they're physically already individual units. And by doing that, you are creating more value by having single units worth more than the total added together. So to do that, some of the key considerations are, the obvious one is the purchase price. So the first thing you do is you're looking at how much is the actual block selling for. A lot of the times people just value their block based on, let's say there's 4 units in there, 4 flats in there. They will look at a 1-bedroom flat in the local area. If there's 100 grand, they say I've got 4, so the value of the block is 400. That's not totally true, because the value of this whole is not, because he can't sell 1 flat out of that block. So he has to break it down, and valuing that block at 400 grand is actually not a market reflection of the true value of that individual flat, because you can't sell it on its own. So if you're selling at 400 grand and 400 grand, the average unit price is 100,000, that's not a good value. So that's why the price that you pay to begin with determines if it's a good project for you to get engaged with. If it's not, then you move on. So the way I teach it is basically look at the purchase price, work out the rough unit price per flat in that area. Then you go to, if you have to look at the block price divided by the number of units, that will give you what each unit on average is costing you based on that purchase price. That then also determines in future the stamp duty and the stamp duty relief that you can get by using multiple dwelling relief. Some stuff that we can talk about another time. But the idea is, for example, if you've got a block of 10 flats, you want to take 10 flats, divide, and the value, it's a million. One more, 0 divided by 10. So you're looking at each unit right now is costing you 100,000 for each flat. So if already you look around and you think the market is already at 100,000 or even 90,000, so that means that is already too high. So that might mean this price is too high for you to go for. You might have to then negotiate with the seller to get a better price. So first and the most most important one is how much are you buying it and how much are you paying for this block. The second, or the other considerations, there's 7 of them. The second consideration is around the refurb cost. I won't go too much into that, but it is what it is. How much are you going to be spending on each of the units, the communal areas, and any other repairs, fire alarms, etc., etc. How much would you be doing and spending to get that block or the units in the block to a certain standard that actually is going to add value to the flat itself, so that when a surveyor comes out, they can see that it's worth what you think it's worth, or what you say the market will pay for it. Then the third element is all around the legals. Bearing in mind you're taking one freehold, you're breaking into chunks, so there's a lot of work around the legals. This is where the skill that you are buying costs you money, but if you buy the right skill, it will reduce your risk and your lack of sleep, I guess, because of stress. So pay the right people with the right skills and the right competency to do this. So the legals will cost you a certain amount. By doing the legals, you are basically splitting the land, the planning, the actual title itself. The person will need to create a freehold, the leases, work with you to look at your company group structure, who's going to own what, because you're not allowed to own leases in the same block as well as the freehold. So you have to have a discussion with your accountant, your conveyancer, so your solicitor, your broker, the lenders, etc. So there's a lot of conversation to be had to make sure that you get to a point where the title split is done properly, so that when you come to exit, there's no issues. So third point is legal costs that you have to bear in mind, and that cost is then factored up to the number of units. So in our example, we've got 10 units, so that cost will be, you'll have to pay for 10 leases, etc., to be created, obviously. Fourth one that we talked about this morning is around refinancing costs. So here I was trying to get across to the gentleman around the cost that is involved when you come to then refinancing the block on an individual basis. So you've got survey valuation costs, conveyancing costs, broker fees, and then you're doing conveyancing for two companies almost. You're paying for the lender, but also you have to do it for your company as well, because you are in that group structure. So it's a bit more complex, and that cost is then factored up by the number of units as well. Fifth consideration is the cost of capital. To me, that's a really big thing. If you are buying it cash, it's one of the cheapest ways of doing it, but I take the point that not everybody's got cash, 400-500 grand, £1 million in this example, that's lying around to invest. But cash is the cheapest. Then buy to let is the second cheapest, but it's more complex around refinancing, title splitting. So you'll have to get the right lender to lend you the money that will allow you to do the title splitting. So while it's cheaper, it's not necessarily the recommended route that I will recommend to people. And the third one, the more expensive one, is the bridge. Bridging finance, as we know, it's more expensive than most finances, but they do help in this scenario around allowing you to title split while you are on a bridge in order to refinance. So, but getting the bridge right is absolutely critical. So if you're bridging, really aim for the worst, and so plan for the worst and hope for the best. So I'll always get my team or my mentees to project their spending on the 12 months on a bridge. So if they finish at 6 months, great, they save X amount of £1,000. But if if for whatever reason, land registry delay, refinancing delay, COVID happens, you stick on a bridge for more than what you plan for, then it starts eating up into your profit, and it really can hurt you. So cost of capital is absolutely paramount to to factor in how much is it costing you. And the last thing I'll say about cost of capital, if you've got 500 grand in the bank, you really need to see and attribute a certain amount of return on that money. So almost play as if you were the bank. How much would you earn if you had 500 grand, and if you weren't using it here, could you put it somewhere else, and what is the cost of that? So that is also a cost that you need to bear in mind, that this project is costing you. Just because you got the cash is fine, but it is still costing you money for investing it in that, because the time in the title split is not 1 month, 2 months. So sometimes 6 months, sometimes 9 months. I've been in the project, it's lasted almost 11 months to refinance and get all the money out. So that's a big consideration for me as well. And the last two, for me, the growth is really, at some point we all run out of money, but growth is all about recycling your cash. I teach a lot around what to buy, how to buy, what is that we're paying for. And here on the title split, we're really looking at recycling cash, because if it is £1 million, £500,000, you will need to try and find ways of recycling that money out. And part of my program is exactly that. So what do I teach? So, really in terms of recycling your cash out of this particular example I was talking about this morning, I was saying to the gentleman, look, you need to get your new values of each flat to exceed the purchase price of the block, plus the refurb cost, plus the legals, the refinancing cost, and the cost of capital. So if you then do that, and you increase the value by at least 25% of what it's cost you, you will then be able to recycle all of your money out. To use an example, we use, if you at the end of the title split, this project would be worth right now 500,000 based on what the unit flats will be individually worth times 5. The purchase price was 325 or is 325, and rough cost is 75. So in this example, the spend would have been 400,000 in total. That then means when you go to the bank and refinance, they will look at the £500,000 value, give you 25% loan to value on each of them. That means you are being asked to leave £100,000 deposit on this project. So £100,000 deposit, but it's valued at 500. That means they will lend you £400,000 of loans on all of the individual flats. That total of 400,000, if you remember, in our example, we paid 325, we spent 75 is what we actually then spend. So if we spent 400,000 and at the end of it we get back 400,000, all of our money is actually recycled back out of that deal. What's the benefit of that? Clearly, you can start looking at your next deal to be able to invest that 400,000 into your next block of title split project. And lastly, before you ask, some people might be wondering, well, if I've taken the money, where's my money coming from? Well, don't forget, you've got, in this example, you've got 5 flats on average earning about £700 of rent. You take out, let's say, figuratively speaking, let's say half of it goes to your mortgage. So on each flat, you're making 350 times 5. You're looking at £1,500 worth of passive income that this block now will generate this person. Most importantly, all of his £400,000 comes out. He then just leaves 5 flats growing in value every day, every month, every year, and he's making a passive income of around £1,500. You factor it up like 5-6 times, in a year that you can, let's say you do that in over 2 years, you're potentially creating a wealth of around £7,500 a year, and you've still got your £400,000 by following these steps. So my name is Azid. I post quite a lot of videos. I am also on Facebook as well, and I specialize really in coaching and mentoring people on how to conduct title splitting in a way that they can recycle all of their cash out, leave passive income, and genuinely build wealth for the long term. If you're interested, please follow my Facebook group, Title Splitting Properties on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, quiddity_group, and then I'm also on email, so Azid, AZID at quiddity, QUIDDITY group.co.uk. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.